The chief fashion critic of the New York Times is Vanessa Friedman. About Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she wrote, "Justice Ginsburg's collars served as both semiology and semaphore. Need I say more? Well, yes. They signaled her positions before she even opened her mouth, and they represented her unique role as the second woman on the country's highest court. Shining like a beacon amid the dark sea of denaturing judicial robes, Justice Ginsburg's collars were unmistakable in photographs and from the court floor. The collars were conceived in collaboration with her fellow justice, Sandra Day O'Connor. The idea was to claim what was a traditionally male uniform and unapologetically feminize it. The robes designed for men showed a bit of shirt and tie. That may seem innocuous, but those collars were in fact radical. In the book of Exodus, Shmot, Adonai describes the garb of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. This special regalia of the Kohen Gadol includes a turban, tunic, leggings, epaulets, a headband, and a breastplate, an ephod. Now, aside from rows of precious stones engraved with the names of the tribes of Israel, are the Urim v'Tumim. In that breastplate are somehow the Urim v'Tumim. Whatever they are, they're not described. We're not told how they function, but they seem to be connected to divining, literally, Adonai's will on occasions when God is not necessarily available for a direct consultation. Perhaps we might view the trademark collars of the justices as more akin to the ephod, the Kohen's breastplate, except that the breastplate itself, along with the headband, was meant as a reminder to the Kohen of his responsibilities, his ritual responsibilities to the 12 tribes of Israel, and that he was not to favor one over the others, however that may have been possible. Torah demands that justice be applied fairly, without regard for status or wealth. So we must examine what justice means to us today. Is our definition of justice one that allows for opinions that differ from ours? Is it one that encourages broader thinking, new perspectives, the possibility of personal inconvenience or financial cost? Does our definition of justice allow for the influence of religion, the blurring of church and state? Justice Ginsburg's collars weren't channeling the divine, but they were telegraphing her judgment. And what may have initially seemed to be a lighthearted poke at the patriarchy turned into a symbol of demanding attention and authority, something that girls and women and boys and men across the country have taken to heart. In her New York Times obituary, Linda Greenhouse described that after a clerkship, Ms. Ginsburg returned to Columbia to work on a comparative law project on civil procedure. The project required her to learn Swedish and to spend time in Sweden, where feminism was flourishing. Women were combining work and family obligations. Childcare was readily available. An article by Eva Moberg, editor of a feminist magazine, caught Ms. Ginsburg's attention. Quote, "We ought to stop harping on the concept of women's two roles. Both men and women have one principal role, that of being people." Judge Ginsburg kept her eye on the prize of equal justice, equal rights, with laws being promulgated without bias for or against gender. Why shouldn't a woman be paid as much as a man for the same work? Why should a man caring for a child be denied benefits that would accrue to a woman doing the same task? A popular story for these days of awe, a story that continually rings true, is told about the Salanter Rebbe, the 19th century founder of the Jewish movement for Musar, ethical conduct. When I was a young man, he wrote, I wanted to change the world, but I found it was difficult to change the world. So I tried to change my country. When I found I couldn't change my country, I tried to change my village. When I discovered I really couldn't change the village, I tried to change my family. Now, older and wiser, I realize the only thing I can change is myself. But I've come to realize that if long ago I had started with myself, then I could have made an impact on my family, and my family and I could have had an effect on our village. And our village might have been moved to help change the country, and our country might have had a hand in changing the world. Rabbi Lauren Holtzblatt of Adas Israel Congregation in Washington, D.C., offered these words in her eulogy of Justice Ginsburg. To be born into a world that does not see you, that does not believe in your potential, that does not give you a path for opportunity or a clear path for education, and despite this, to be able to see beyond the world you are in, to imagine that something else can be different, is the job of a prophet. And it is the rare prophet who not only imagines a new world, but makes that world a reality in her lifetime. This was the brilliance and vision of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We may not be prophets, we may not be a Rebbe, but we can change the world as she did, as the Salanter Rebbe described, but we must begin with ourselves. Gmar Chatima Tova.